Well, like we know on this podcast, I don't really like doing the introductions. I like getting straight into it. So we are lucky enough to be joined by Dean Margetts, umpire of over, I think, 376 games, if I'm correct.
You're incorrect. It's 377, but that's okay. I'm happy to roll.
376 before his last game, and then he umpired his last game, 377, 110 games in the waffle. So he's umpired almost 500 games of senior footy. Mate, I've got to be completely brutal with our listeners here. I've never been so inspired to ask questions of a guest. This is our 50th episode. Oh, close enough to it anyway.
Yeah.
50th, 50th, somewhere there.
Yep.
Is there a banner here? Is it a milestone?
Dean Margetts, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Will. It's great to be here. We've had our numerous interactions over your playing career, which we'll get to later, but I'm happy to be part of the show, and hopefully we can get some great questions from your audience.
Well, we have a chat to our guest before we get into things, and I just said, let's just stop talking. We need to hit record and get into it. I really have so many questions because, I mean, one thing, you don't see umpires in the media. I mean, Ray Chamberlain does his thing over East. He's really the first umpire that I can remember speaking to the public. I want to start with that. I think that's why people have so many questions, is because it doesn't seem like there's a lot of transparency in the profession.
It's one thing I've always would have liked to have done post-game. Hey, Dane, what was that free kick for? And I think people would appreciate the humanising of a decision if we just explain it. Hey, you know what? I got that one wrong. And people would go, wow. Honesty. So I don't know why the AFL doesn't do that, particularly for the senior umpires. Ray's angling for a media career post-footy, so he's got that in place. Hopefully this show can launch my career from here, which I'm hoping
That's the discussion. That's the discussions we've had.
Yeah, so that's where I think this can start and grow legs.
What will help that as well, and the first question we usually ask every guest, that Will does this. He gets so excited that he just likes to get straight into it. But we actually have a question that we ask every guest. We've seen you've done, 377 umpired games, lots in the waffle.
2 waffle grand finals. Couple of prelim finals.
AFL
life member.
But what's your greatest sporting achievement not on the football field?
So we're here to tell you, look, you're an umpire, great. We don't care. We ask sporting guests we have on here, you know, if you're a footballer, that's great. You've done great things on the footy field. Tell us your best sporting achievement, not in your profession. So, an umpire, I think it's the world's your oyster here,
Yeah,
Dino.
it is.
Tell us your best sporting achievement.
In 1989, I won a silver medal in the walk for WA State Athletics.
Holy shit. So, heel toe.
Heel toe, hips, clunky. Now, I'll tell you how I got to walk. You're going to say, why the walk? When you can obviously run.
Nathan Deeks.
Kind of like Deeksy. So, back in the day, I was actually on the same trip as Scott Cummings, ironically. He was the big Buddha with the throwing and the discus and the javelin, and I was the sort of skinny little runner dude. You had to make the podium to go on a state trip. Yeah. Okay. Now, to get a medal, that's sometimes tough. And I was always running sort of 6th or 7th in the States. I mean, how do I get to go to this trip to Singapore? Like, 15, 16, how good is this going to be? And I said, no one does this walk caper. So my best friend's dad was a coach. I said, let's do this. And we trained hard. And long story short, I won silver at state, got me the ticket to Singapore, had a great trip. And I won silver on the national stage in Singapore against all the little Singaporeans.
Wow.
Huge.
That's right up there, Dan.
Yeah, that's very good.
Right up there.
That was the year that we were born as well, which is, so that adds to it.
Whack.
That's a little bit.
Now, I don't look my age. I haven't had my forehead shined up.
Some great things happened that year. That's what I'm saying.
I told you to wear a hat right there, Dan, mate.
I'm just going to adjust your mic slightly, sorry.
So you start your umpiring career at AFL level at 2002?
Yes,
is that when you
that's
debuted?
Correct, yes.
But when did you start umpiring before that?
My story's a pretty unique one, Will.
Well, you're a walker, so...
that's unique in itself, isn't it? But I didn't walk on the field, did I? I did not.
No, runner.
I'd played my whole life at the Maddington Footy Club from 7 till about 23. I played 57 league games for the senior team. I was the widest receiver you could get. I didn't like pain or hard ball gets, so give me the ball and I'll run. Got to the point where I couldn't play anymore, just got tired of the dead legs, etc. But I still loved the game, so how do you stay involved? So I ended up coaching under 13s team, and I happened to have a player in that team called Dominic Cassisi.
Really?
So I've coached a young kid to ultimately be a captain of an AFL team. So it was quite unique for me to go to Amy Stadium and shake the hand of this boy who I coached at 13.
Did he play in that flag?
He may have. I can't quite remember.
Thank you.
You check that.
Charlie will have a check.
I only just caught up with Dominic on the weekend, ironically. I'll show you a picture later.
See if he wants to come on BackChat.
Could.
Good.
But don't steal my thunder because this is my show at the moment. So Dom, you just go and enjoy a few beers. And then I got to the point where I thought, I can't coach anymore. How do I stay in the game that I love? And I'm really passionate about footy. And there was an ad in the local rate that umpires wanted. I said, how hard could it be? A couple of years, I could do that. I can umpire Gozzie playing Thornley, Maddington versus Kenwick. I went and joined up. I spent 2 years at juniors. And just by chance, I was spotted by David Johnson, the then umpire's boss, kind of like my role now in footy. Yeah. And he said, I think you got some talent, Dean. I might get you to come down to the Waffle. I'm thinking there's no way they're going to send this skinny punk from Maddington a letter to the Waffle. That's just huge. To his credit, he did. So I started Waffle in 1998, did Colts, finished in reserves. I did my first league game in 1999, Freo Derby, East Fremantle, South Fremantle. I did the 2000 grand final, which was part of the East Perth sort of trilogy where they won 3 flags under Tony McCarlin and Jeremy Barnard. And in 2001, I probably would have done another grand final, but I missed a punch to the guts. Scotty Chisholm whacked a bloke in the guts on the wing. I shifted my vision. Coach said, mate, that's going to cost you. So that was my first bit of, whoa, I've had this dream run, and then I missed a grand final. And then in 2002, I made the AFL. So I was almost learning how to umpire at the highest level. So I'm sure there were times where Geesh and Rowan Saw said, no, this bloke really got it. But they stuck with me and hope I paid them back in spades with a 20-year career.
I mean, that's such an interesting point. I think people don't realise perhaps that decisions made and mistakes made by umpires are just as heavily criticised internally. Like umpires get the external criticism, but you guys have got coaches too, right? So you miss a granny because of that.
Anyone who thinks umpires are unaccountable, kidding themselves. Like we've got 34 umpires on the AFL panel, and everyone wants to do a grand final. So how do you get 34 into 3? Assessment, bouncing, management, skills, commentary, everything. I missed probably the 2015 grand final. I guess it was the West Coast North Melbourne prelim at Subi. Luke Shue went to take a ball and he took out the knees, I think, of one of the Swallow boys. And I just went to blow my whistle and I went, play on. And that split second probably cost me an AFL grand final. It was such a significant error, and that's something that'll sit in the back of my mind forever. But, would I give back what I've achieved? No, but there's little moments for you. And I'm sure, with all these moments in game, if I only had a foiled or I didn't zig when I should have zagged, it's tough.
I mean, that's what kept springing up in my mind, that the more I think about it, the more umpiring and playing are actually quite similar. You guys are in a team. You have coaches. Yep. You have the public scrutiny that players do. You can come in and out of teams. You can miss grand finals. Yep. You're in the same game. Yes, you don't have the contact levels, but you're doing a lot of similar things. Your preparation, you have a pre-season, your training, you have rules. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of similarities. Yeah. I mean, that grand final you miss, so you don't umpire a grand final in your career.
No.
Is that a regret?
Not really, because when I started umpiring, all I wanted to do was umpire in the Sunday League. So to get to Waffle was massive. Then to have a 20-year career at the AFL when I never thought that was possible. No, I don't have regrets. Would I've loved to have done one? Of course you would. But, I've done Anzac Day games. I've done many Western Derbies. I've been to Dubai for a game. I've travelled around the world with footy. I mean, would I give it all back for a grand final? Probably not.
You keep talking. I'm going to fix Dean's mic because it's swivelling around a bit. I want to make sure everyone hears it properly.
I've got a big list of questions. I think we start at the start. So your debut in 2002, you've come through the Waffle. You're a senior umpire in the AFL now. What makes a good umpire? Like what qualities make a good umpire?
Courage and composure are the two. We talk about the C factor. I could list off 32 C words, and not the C word I get called after games on social media, which we'll cover later.
We're going to do that a bit later. We're going to go through social media posts.
But there is it takes courage to be an umpire. It takes courage to put on the green shirt to go out and do any game of footy. It takes courage to pay that free kick in the goal square when you know you've got to pay it and the scores are a tie. That's courage. And it takes composure to keep your mind calm when the players are at you, the crowd's at you. You just got to be balanced, because when you become engaged with players in a flighty way, I think you can start to lose your mind a bit. They're the two most important. I always like to think of myself as a players umpire. Had good interaction with the players, had good respect. Players could come at me and have a conversation, and I wasn't too concerned about if it got raised or this umpire respect, which I'm sure we'll cover later. So I think that's important, and having a good feel for the game. There's the law book, and then there's rules, and then there's having decision-making in the context of a game. A lot of people ask me, Will, why can't you umpire games like you umpire the grand final? And I'll give you a reason for that. You've got the 3 best umpires in the country and the 2 best clubs. You get a pretty good product. When you're watching a game, North Melbourne versus Port, you might have a guy doing his second game, a guy doing his 38th game, and a guy doing 150. So you're going to get a bit of a up and down performance. And that's no different to players and clubs. We all want to play like Gary Ablett, and we all want to umpire like maybe Brett Roseby. We can't all do that. So that's why the team environment's really important. Now, you're right, we don't sing club songs after. We don't ever win. We don't go and sing an umpire song, but we certainly reflect on our performance that we think we've gone okay, or we've probably had a poor one. So we're aware of both.
What was the thing that stood out? So you said that you sort of were luckily spotted by the person in your position now. What was it about you that they thought, oh, this guy's actually got something? Like what are those sort of things that you can see?
Tall, athletic, good looking, engaging.
I say the same things as about me, actually.
My draftable qualities. I guess I was a player, so I understood footy. I knew what it was like to get a whack in the face, how I'd respond. I had a feel for what that felt like and managing that. But I will share a story. When Jeff Geeshan rang me in 2002 and said, we're offering you a contract, he said, Dono, the reason we picked you, because the games that you did in the pre-season, you knew every player's name. And we just thought that was an exceptional way of your ability to want to be part of the system and the effort you went to learning. Now, I was a footy nuffy, so I knew the players. So when I'm going, Ashley Sampi and all these sort of newer players, he's like, how would you know those? And to me, that was one of the skills that I had to get in, which is, having the 1%ers, I guess.
Yeah. How important working together in a team? Like, I don't know where to take this. I just got so many. So there's a team of 3 umpires. At any time during the AFL career, was it less than 3?
I was always 3 for me, yep.
You've got to work together. Like, it's not one guy running around and he's the main umpire. There's obviously the controlling umpire and the outer zone umpires.
Yep.
How important is that chemistry?
Significant. I mean, we're always umpiring. There's no such thing as, hey, why are you overruling me? If an umpire sees a free kick, the expectation is we pay it. Because sometimes the way the game's played now, there's 30 players in a 50, and you can't always see. So if the bloke who's 40 metres away sees, Will getting held or Pavlich's arm being chopped, then we should pay that. That's what should happen, and that's what does happen. So the team, and we're all mic'd up, we're always talking to each other through our earpieces, so we're sharing knowledge, sharing, hey, just watch out, Will scragging that bloke, just be mindful, all those little things, which happened often.
Why do you say that? Why is that an example?
Because you were a scragger, so we'll get to that later.
We're going to have a whole item of Will Schofield's dossier.
He's airing grievances about Will's
This is Dave Margetts Unplugged, by the way, so we'll get to some unplugging later.
Correct. Did you speak to each other a lot with those mics?
When you needed to. You got to remember, guys actually umpiring moments in games where you got to have your full concentration.
Yeah,
So if a person's chirping in my ear, you'd always wait for a stop play if you could, or between goals when we've got that 45 seconds to do so.
And what about the attitude between umpires for over, like you said, always umpiring, so overruling? Yep. So maybe not missing, but I've seen some where a high tackle might be paid and there'll be someone out of zone saying not high. Was there ever
occasionally, but generally teamwork is rated so highly in our assessment that if you can pay a free that the other bloke didn't see and you've got the courage to pay it, then your share price goes up. So sometimes I feel umpires maybe overlook for that now a little bit. We've got to get the balance right, but generally that's a massive tick for the umpiring group to have that teamwork synergy.
What sort of things are you, is there a list? I'm assuming missed free kicks, incorrect free kicks.
3 criteria: correct, which we all love.
Yep.
Missed and unwarranted. I think most players, and you'll know this, you'd prefer us to miss a free kick because we just can't see what we can't pay, versus blowing a free kick and everyone goes, what the hell was that for? So, the message to umpires is pay what you see, not what you think you can, not what you think you see.
And is there sort of just an understanding that you've sort of got each other's back no matter, like he comes in and says, no, I saw that, then you're like, I 100% back you, or are you in the back of your head like,
I might say, look, I didn't really think it was free, but you blow your whistle, it's on you now. So whatever the powers to be say, that's on them. But we never sort of spend too much time on it because it's just the game happens so fast.
How then does the review process work? Do the 3 of you sit down together and go through film or anything like that?
Not straight away. After the game, as we all know, you're pretty knackered. The last thing you do is go through review straight away. But I would go home the next day, go through my game, dump into Smarter Base all my feedback, my good, bad and ugly, and then the coach would do the same, and then we'd have a conversation on Tuesday, either argue a few things, and that happens. It swings and round, but I didn't argue free kicks too much. I believe sometimes you get some and sometimes you don't, and a bit like umpiring. Some players get some and some don't.
What?
He was going to say, I got the don'ts.
I was just thinking that my Smarter Base, I'd be sitting with my coach, bloody arguing away. I tell you, D Margetts, he got that wrong. That's why I stuffed up. It's the umpire's fault. I'm telling you. What about some big moments then in your career? I know you umpired a prelim final, which you just said that North one, 2015. What about some other big games? You mentioned Anzac Day.
Yeah, it's really special.
Do you remember big moments?
Yeah, I certainly remember my first game, that West Coast game, round 5, 2002. I never forget it for this reason. First of all, it's the best bounce that I've ever done. It was just the perfect spin, the height. I mean, I've never done one since, and I'm a pretty good bouncer.
I was going to say, you're renowned as a good bouncer.
Pretty good bouncer. That was like the perfect everything, you know. Even the sponsors loved the way it spun up, you know, had all the right logo. But I remember having that ball, and for a split second before the siren, when all that adrenaline's coursing through your body, you look to your left, and I had Cousins, Kerr, and Judd, and over there I had Voss, Black, and Ackermanis, I think. And I thought, my God, what am I doing here? These are the game's elite players, and I almost felt like I didn't deserve to be out there. And then you reflect back on that game some 20 years later, and you got like 3 or 4 Brownlow medalists, a couple of runner-up Brownlow medalists, and then they're all Hall of Fame people. So that's a pretty special moment for sure. Anzac Day special, your first final when Gary Ablett was playing for Geelong, they're all special. I had a lot of Hawthorn Geelong games, you know, Isaac Smith after the siren, you know, you're standing there, you're in this greatest moment of all time at the G, and I'm thinking, geez, you know, these are really special times to be part of.
Do you get that, like the third person almost sort of sitting back and do you get a chance to enjoy it? I mean, you're doing a job.
Yeah, so that one I did enjoy because I remember Sam Mitchell said, I won't say exactly what he said. He said, Isaac, don't stuff this up. But you can imagine what he said.
You can say what he said.
Well,
don't fuck it up. Don't fuck it up,
Mitch said to Isaac, don't fuck this up. This is grand final for us. And I'm sitting there going, how relaxed can these players be in the siren's gone? This is their whole season. And I'm just sitting there grinning, and he missed it, and they sort of just got on with it and moved on. So you got to give them credit for that. They just have this really good disposition. Wow. Yeah.
You would have seen some big moments firsthand that people wouldn't get to experience. And not even players would see what you saw, because as players, definitely, well, for me anyway, like you do remember some moments, but you're not removed from it. Like umpires are removed. You're meant to be, you know, a part of what's going on. But do you have other stuff like that you remember, sort of interactions between players? And I know you would have seen a lot in 370 games.
Yeah, I remember the Western Derby once, and I think it was the day before. I think Ben Cousins had his tattoo on his chest done the day before, 2 days before. Such is life. My understanding is one of the Carr brothers' girlfriends or wives' friend worked at the tattoo parlour that Ben Cousins had that tattoo, and obviously that got back to them. So in the game, I couldn't work out why Josh Carr's just pinching him and cracking him in the guts. I think he obviously was a bit still sensitive. So that was a game that got out of hand. I think I had like 10 errors in the game. I had a migraine for 3 weeks. It was just such every moment, guys getting pushed into fences. It was just full on. So I remember that being pretty challenging. I remember James Hird when he had his face caved in that game at Subiaco Oval many moons ago. He got a knee to the head, and I was the umpire on the spot. And I remember going over thinking he'd been in a car accident. His face was everywhere. You know, his fractured cheekbone, blood everywhere. So that's a moment I certainly remember. But there's a lot out there. There's lots of banter on the field. But what I will say, and this is kudos to the players, is, you know, a lot of things have happened off the field which are quite sensitive to some. Players never really raised it on field. That was like a line, a bit of a gentleman's agreement, and I fully acknowledge him for that. The one time that it crossed the line was, remember Travis Cloak, how he was going through a few mental demons and stuff and had a few challenges. He was playing Fremantle, and he was lining up for goals in a quarter, and a Fremantle player, small, diminutive, a little bit aggressive at times, came up and said,
may have been on this
podcast. He said to him, hey, Clokey, dark rooms, quiet places, you okay there, mate? And I'm thinking, oof. So when he kicked the goal, and I went up to his player and said, mate, I think that's getting close to the line of, you know, code conduct, you know, personal stuff. And yeah, right, Dana, all good. And
I've got to ask, this isn't related at all, but you were on the ground, I believe, paid a free kick when Hayden Valentine had a go-ahead goal after the siren.
Yes.
Paid the free kick, not a free kick.
The free kick. The deliberate out of bounds. Who did it?
As Matt Rosa contacted you, Matt, are you watching, Matt? Probably, you should be. You've got to move on, Matt, because this happened so many years ago. Now, he's the footy manager at Peel, and we have interactions in my role at the commission, and he still brings up, that wasn't a free kick, Dana.
That's deliberate. Absolutely. It's not a marking contest.
He just bounced up, bang over the line. It's probably the quintessential insufficient intent / deliberate we probably should use for coaching in all umpiring groups.
Yeah. There you go.
So hi Matt.
Then what do you remember? Because like obviously he thought it went in.
Yeah.
People were celebrating. Yeah. Hit the post. It was unsure.
It's a really funny story because I thought I'd nailed that free kick, which I did. And on Monday when my coach rang me, I see the old 03. Oh, that's Melbourne. Hello. Talk me through it. I said, yeah, great free kick. I thought, you know, right place, good position. He goes, no, talk me through the set kick. I'm like, What do you mean?
Man on the mark.
Yeah. So what had happened?
Just before you get into it, I copped a 2.5 hour meeting on Monday because of this, Dave.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So the man on the mark stands there, which he has to stand. But
Quinton Lynch,
and then Hayden Valentine. The siren's gone, so you must stay in a direct line. But Hayden Valentine's wheeled out and made ground, and I should have called play on, no score. Now, in hindsight, lucky it touched the post, no score. And I said to my coach, I said, I don't think the game wants that. I think people want to see that. And then he said to me, I think West Coast players want you to just apply the rules. And it was a really confronting moment because I thought I'd nailed the moment, but when I reflect back on it, I actually got it wrong.
What happened with it, though, was Lynchy moved.
Yeah.
That's what would have made it hard and that's why we got the 2.5 hour meeting was how to stand on the mark.
Yeah.
So we were doing the stand rule before the stand rule.
Before your time.
If Lynchy had stood like that, Hayden Valentine would have been 15 metres to his right.
And it would have made it more obvious, I guess, yeah. But from the mark's the mark. Wherever I said it, that is the mark. If Lynchy moves off it, that's on me to still know that. So
I want to get to this point because I've seen it across socials and I think it's something that runs around and I think it's a good point to talk about it because we're talking about a free kick given to a Fremantle player to potentially win a game. People on social media talk about you umpiring West Coast and Fremantle. Talk to me about the importance of what's the word I'm looking for?
Neutral?
Neutrality. Impartiality is the word. How important is that to you?
It's a word I don't even need to have because it's never been an issue for me. I mean, this myth that I'm a member of the West Coast, I've got my own parking bay, my wife's a receptionist, has just grown legs. And I'll tell you where this grew from, by the way. When I came back from a significant injury in about 2015, I hosted a group of Down syndrome kids at a Fremantle versus Giants game. And I had a beanie on. And the beanie was navy blue and orange. And it had 06, which is my number. It's just a quirky thing I wore. People thought that was a blue and gold beanie, which grew
the
this
06 premiership
something like that. And then it was crazy. And they got posts on social. Look at Margetts wearing an Eagles beanie. I'm going, oh my God, it's orange and blue. And it just grew legs. And people often say, hey, does your wife seriously work at West Coast? And I've said to them, have you actually rung 9381, whatever the number is out there, Will, and asked to speak to her? Oh, no, we'll do it. So that is really disappointing. I've got huge admiration for the West Coast Eagles Footy Club, and I've got huge admiration for the Freo Footy Club because I have good professional working relationships with all administrators, all coaches and players at both clubs. Because I've spent 20 years of my life being there, educating, going on community camps with them, and you build rapport. But as you know, when you're out there, the game's the game. It happens too quick. It's too fast. I can't even think, hang on, my mum goes to West Coast, but my dad goes for Collingwood. How am I going to... It can't happen. It just cannot happen. And if I wanted to throw a game, my career would have lasted one game. And it wouldn't be a good payout because I wouldn't have had the success I had through that. So I get really agitated with that notion.
As you should. I guess I wanted to ask it so you could actually speak to it because, I mean, that's one really big point I wanted to get you on here for is add that human element because I hear things like that and my first reaction is, what a fucking joke. My second reaction is, as a player... Although I like playing, you were an umpire I remembered a lot, to be honest, because I think we're able to give each other shit. I think I was able to tell you what I thought, and you'd come back at me sometimes, and I actually respected that. Yep. But overall, I used to come away thinking, fucking Dean, he was looking after the opposition too much. But I reckon, in hindsight, I actually thought that about every single umpire I ever played against, played with. But yeah, I just sort of see that, and I think the same thing as you. Clearly, it's about you, but I think the game happens so fast, so quick that, and you're such an experienced, well-versed umpire across many seasons that, I think it's disrespectful, to be really honest.
I remember I called your program last year when I was listening. I was actually driving. I think I was even driving to the game. It was the day before my last game, the Western Derby, and some clown rang up and said, Will, and I think it might have been Simon Beaumont, I know for a fact that Jeff Dalglish and Dean Margetts have West Coast Eagle memberships. I know that for a fact. And I'm driving along going, how can you possibly know that?
This is before your last game, I remember
I rang up and I spoke to the producer and my name comes up at 6 p.m. now. Oh, Dean will put you through. So I kind of feel like a bit of a VIP now. It's really good.
In fairness to me, I shut him down on air, by the way. I was like, look, mate,
it was good.
I don't think that's at all. And
I just rang up and I obviously went through it and I said, that's just an insane comment. And to, Will's great, he texted me and said, thanks for calling it. So sometimes the humanising of nonsense is important and I hope people sort of appreciate me being a bit more honest. And now that I'm umpiring, I can share a few more stories and I don't have to go through the AFL and get clearance. I can be a bit more me. because I think people would appreciate, and I've met lots of people and I've had these conversations in this sort of form, and most people are going, oh God, he's actually human after all, he's a decent sort of bloke. And I think most umpires are. We're all decent human blokes.
The point off the top, right, is there's no access to umpires. There's access to players and coaches and everyone else.
Yeah.
There's no access to umpires.
I don't think we should be protected. We're all grown men. We're not shrinking violets. We should be able to get on in front of the lights and say, you know what, yeah, I made a mistake. This is what I thought, but the AFL seem a bit protected of us. And I understand, but I reckon people would want to see it. So I'm thinking about having Dean Margetts access all areas. That could be my new show.
Totally.
Maybe. Does that
Triple A.
They have Steve Jabby, I think his name is, has a spot in the NBA, and he's a retired referee, and they go to him mid-game, like, what do you think of that call? And he's like, I probably wouldn't have called that or whatever. And it's really interesting. I love it.
I think that we did that in the AFL. Remember when John Russo did it many years ago?
Channel 10 when there was running
that's right.
hot.
Yes, yeah. So if any broadcast is looking for a Dean Margetts person,
BackChat.
I'm available. BackChat. Yeah.
Do they do a last 5 minute report that gets out where missed and made calls are addressed in the AFL?
It's too late sometimes. It comes out Wednesday. People don't care Wednesday. They want to know post-game or maybe 24 hours after.
Yeah.
I think that's where we miss it a bit. And I think we can make some inroads if we were a bit more open with it, yeah.
What about the art? We've got some questions about the art of umpiring, some stuff that happens. I just have questions about. I'll go off the top. How do you measure a 50-metre penalty?
Do you know how big the centre square is?
No, I thought it was different in every ground.
Isn't that funny? So we've got a player here who's on reasonable coin.
So don't do this.
No, I'm going to do this because it needs to be, because this frustrates me, because these players, the AFL players, go out onto the oval, and if I ask Will you this question, that point post and that goal post, what's the distance between that?
It's for 18 metres from point to point.
See, it's close, but I would say to players, shouldn't you know? Isn't knowledge power? Isn't the more you know, the better? Anyhow, the square's 50.
I know every
rule.
By 50. If you did a quiz with me and asked me about rules, what would happen if we did this? I know every rule, and it used to piss me off how many players wouldn't know rules.
Audience, queue up this. Zone in. Can we do a close-up shot here? Will, I've just taken a mark. Okay,
well, you're umpiring.
This is good.
Okay.
No, I'm
joking.
I've taken a mark. I've gone.
He's Ben Brown. He's taken a mark.
I've gone behind the goal line.
Yes.
I've gone to kick it and it's hit the goalpost.
Yes.
Now you're the umpire. What are you doing?
I am balling it up just 10 metres out from goals.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying, audience. So here's a player who just thought he knew everything and he's got it straight off the bat wrong.
What's the answer?
That's actually a reset kick.
Really?
Have that again. That's just reset that one. So you would.
at least I didn't say it's a score.
No, but you got it wrong. It was clearly wrong, and you said you wouldn't get it right, so that's okay.
That's very good.
We might throw a few more later because I might get this 3 strikes, so we're 1 strike down.
I find if anything, umpires are usually a little too generous with the 50. Because I think there was one last week that I saw that was 65. They marched, they kept going, surely they're going to stop them.
Yeah.
But obviously it's hard to you don't have a measuring tape. You got to go off feel. So that's sort of part of it. Are you counting steps? Are you going just by
No. Using land, I didn't answer your question. Sorry, we're using the landscape of the ground. From goal line to 50 is 50. The centre square is 50. So you've got a rough idea using those. Now, if you get within 5 metres, I think we'd accept that. 65 is way to whack. You disadvantage your team. That's why knowing your landmarks is important. But certainly the 50s are 50 at all grounds. That's why the SCG 50 looks very close to the square. At Optus, it's different because that's just the way it is, yeah. And by the way, just so you know, everyone, the distance between point post and goal post, it's all 6.4 metres. So point post to point post is 19.2. Now, how far is a legal kick? 15 metres. So that's the way we measure those little dump kicks across goal. Either not 15 play on or pay the mark.
What about this one? So this year it was it was a little bit of umpire dissent, but it was also it was umpire dissent, and an overcorrection or an overreaction when a new rule or new adjudication is coming out that we see usually at the start of a year, but sometimes mid-season they tweak how they're adjudicating, or you tweak holding the ball rule or whatever. How does that happen? How is that actually pushed down to umpires? And then is there sort of like a WhatsApp group with umpires that you kind of all going, well, we just got told that, but do you have a chat? And is that how that
We have a WhatsApp group, but that's not normally the chat generally. I think what we see is there's generally a bit of a crank up in the pre-season. Obviously that Carlton-Melbourne game, it was crazy, 9 Melbourne. Yeah. But what happens is the premiership team from the year before are very generous in their feedback to umpires because they're all of a sudden they're bullish and we're the premiers and they give a bit more feedback.
Is that
That's fair income, Yep, definitely.
I
I think your
agree.
career change post-premiership, yeah.
me personally.
Yeah, you got more creative with your feedback. You know, I'm a big dog now. I'm a premiership. You know, here's my medal. And
I don't think I did that, Dean. That's
I
not
think that's
fair.
probably
that's Geelong, Hawthorn. You know, mature players. You know, very confident in themselves, and you know, when they're successful, I always found that they're a bit more.
That's interesting.
A bit more clever with their feedback and strong.
Yeah, right. So, and then if it does, what is said in the umpires WhatsApp? Is it pure business or?
Nah, a lot of it's crazy stuff. We're
Banter.
no different to players, you know. Stupid pictures that you see,
ragging on each other's calls, like
ragging, silly photos and stuff. A lot of guys, you know, have got shares in horse. You see a horse, all this sort of no different to footy clubs at all.
Yeah,
probably even worse at times. I dare say.
What about with these the rules that get brought in that there's such a hot focus on? Is there a point where they're like, all right, cool, we've established that that's a rule we're calling now? Do you start to sort of cool it off a bit?
There's no such thing as rule of the week. I just got to just dispel that notion. Our coaches will say, look, we've got a focus area this week because we missed some deliberate out of bounds. Let's just go back to the cues. What we're looking for. Let's just remind ourselves. Don't pay what you can't see, but just a focus area. Some areas are really good at holding the ball. Great this week. Well done. Stick to the cues. You know, dive on the ball, legal tackle, holding the ball. You know, if they're not knocking it out. So we have focus areas. But this rule of the week nonsense, which media tend to sort of percolate out there, is inaccurate.
Yes.
What concerns me with media sometimes is, and I listen to Friday night, and the commentators will say, this is Luke Hodge and Daisy Pearce, and they're legends of the game. But when they keep saying, oh, there's two hands in the back there, why didn't they pay that? There's no such rule as hands in the back. That rule went out 4 years ago. It's either a push in the back or the player's holding their ground. 100%. Yeah. So when they see hands in the back, and when BT says it, people at home go, well, BT says it, he must be right. And I'm just sitting at home tearing my hair out because it's just so wrong.
Do umpires educate broadcasters?
We should. Absolutely. 100% we should. And I don't know why the AFL don't just take text channels and say, hey, guys, you're getting that wrong. Please correct it and say it right. I mean, that should be where the AFL and the media are sort of in harmony and getting those messages right. I think it's important.
Because I always used to enjoy pre-season, so I guess for listeners and watchers, you know, we spend pre-season training, but like especially later in my career, umpire used to be down there every week.
Yep.
Might have been you, might have been some of the other fellas. Dalglish was down there.
Yeah.
You know, a couple of other guys. We'd have one big meeting that was usually like, it was like it was like the big reveal of these are the rules. These are the ones that are changing. We're going to go through them.
Yep.
And it was either you or someone else had been like drawn in the short straw who had to present it to the players.
Everyone.
Yeah, because it was an open forum.
Yep.
It's all the players and coaches, and you can ask questions.
Yep.
Which was good. But it was always, without doubt, there was no like, oh, geez, Dean, you had a great year last year, mate. Like, you played so many great free kicks. It was always like, what is that?
Yeah.
Tell us about this. I used to enjoy them, though.
You're right. And
it goes back to the umpire dissent and relationships
100%,
with players.
yeah. I mean, I will share a funny story with the audience. I remember there was a whole raft of new rules. I think it might have been the stand rule about 3 or 4 years ago when it came in. And I remember Simo got up in front of the group and said, okay, right, guys, you've got 30 seconds to talk to your mate and else. How can we exploit this rule? And I'm sitting in the room going, this is why we have no chance. And when you probably remember, the coaches would actually say that. And I'm standing there going, okay. Then I get all these crazy questions. So what if I do this? I'm thinking, whoever asked, I think might have been Tom Barras last year, said, okay, so if I've got the ball, I'm going for goal. So I said, first of all, when are you going to be going for goal? Secondly, he goes, if I charge at the bloke at the last minute, deviate, and you haven't called play, what do I do? I said, I want to see you do that. Yeah. So you get some crazy. Shanahan was the worst. He'd say, no, Dino, he'd go through all this hypotheses of what he would do, and I'm thinking to myself, if you ever do that in a game and stuff my career or my season, I'll kill you. And to his credit, he didn't, but he'd always leave me these little lingering doubts. He's the sort of guy that would do this in a game.
The hands in the back thing made me think of. So the umpires used to come down and umpire, sometimes drills, but mainly match sim, right? And I always used to interact a lot to see what I could get away with, honestly, because it was training. Can I get away with this push? Can I get away with this hold? Can I do this and that? Is that a good thing for umpires as well? Do you 100%, enjoy that?
Yeah, you can't simulate drills.
Not can I get away with it?
No. But the good
is this
question,
right or wrong?
Absolutely. And I think we can't simulate drills at training with our guys. So going to the players and the clubs is the best way. You know, they're fighting for spots in games. You know, they're pushing the envelope a bit. And for us, we really enjoyed that. And there's no substitute for match sim like when we go to the clubs.
There was I'm just going to there was a stage where there was, no hand. You could use no hand on the elbow, right. If you remember that.
I do.
And then it went from, you could hold your ground to you couldn't push at all, and then you could push, and then you can hold your ground with your two hands. And so every year You have to change. It was a lot of it affected backman, to be honest.
Absolutely.
And I'm a grumpy backman, BackChat.
Arm chop, all that stuff.
It was to make the game high scoring and harder to defend.
Yep.
How do you see the overall game in terms of rules that come in like that? Now you're out of the picture. Did you enjoy changes?
I don't mind. I mean, people say, did you like changes? Whether I liked it or didn't like it, it didn't matter. I had to apply them. It's like policemen. If you don't like that speeding zone there, well, we're going to complain to the commissioner. You just got to accept the law book and apply it quickly and educate the players as best we can, and then we get the happy medium. But certainly, I think the 6-6-6 has been okay. I think the stand rule's okay. The only problem with stand is it's exhausting because you're exhaling all the time. It's like, I want that air in my lungs, and sometimes the player's not moving. Stand, it's constant. And do people at home want to hear that all the time?
Yeah,
I don't know.
What about the nominate ruck rule?
Okay, now I need to dispel the myths. Now, people go, it's like Auskick. The reason that was brought in because ruckman didn't know who was contesting. Now, Kurt Tippett got a knee in the head. That doesn't surprise me. Kurt Tippett got a knee in the head in the Giants game, and from that day on, it was because all these people went up and he didn't know who he was competing against. So the reason we do it, it's like, well, Dan, yep. So then you know who you're competing against. That. No one else can come through. It's just you two. And no one's going to be smashing you in the head. So it's not to be Auskick, it's to make sure the ruckmen are clear on who's about to compete for that ball in.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I haven't really thought about it that way.
Yeah, that's what happens. No one thinks. But if they ask, you get the answer. You go, that's not a bad idea. See what's happening here? Harmony.
Just get down to the clubs a bit more, Dan.
Yeah, well,
you do a team meeting a week and you just get abused up the front.
I might be becoming an umpiring consultant now. New title.
What was the I'd like to hear Dean's take on your little trick that you used to pull. So I remember you saying,
I wonder if he knows any of my
umpire
tricks.
Position, and you used to put hand on the shoulder.
I didn't know where the umpires were, but I had a few, right? So we'll see if you picked any of these up. When I spoiled, and this probably got called 3 times in my career, and I reckon every spoil I ever did, I did it. One of my hands, usually my left, would be on the opposition player's shoulder, and it just looked really natural, but always I'd be higher than my opposition because you can't jump with it.
Yeah.
And so that was one. I had one I always found a hold of the jumper would be held. Yep. Called. Yep. You guys can see
when
the jumper
when the sail comes out.
So did a lot of practice at training about holding with body parts, holding wrists, and I was a scragger. You're right. Holding hips, holding body. Like if you're going to grab here, you cannot be grabbing the jumper. You need to be grabbing the ribs, grabbing the hips, grabbing the legs.
So for the last 60 seconds, you've just told us all how much you tried to basically
got to do it, mate.
Break the laws of the game. And then when I caught you out, you would then abuse me for it. Is that extraordinary in itself? He's just admitted every contest he's just about made. But that's what the game's about. The players will challenge us to make the call. I went on a pre-season camp with Hawthorn once for 5 days on the Gold Coast back in 2005. And I remember being in the meeting with Alistair Clarkson, and he used to say, boys, I want you to challenge these blokes. And he's pointing at us, and I'm going, what do you mean? Deliver out of bounds. Kick it out there. They might get it right 80%, but if we get that 20%, we've got to stop it. We'll take that. And I was like, wow, people go to that nth degree, and you have to look back on his career and go, that's pretty reasonable.
You wonder where Simo got it from.
Maybe, yeah. The Hawthorn coaching clinic.
What about away and home crowds and home crowd advantage, home crowd to the noise of affirmation,
pressure to call something?
Yeah, pressure or cheering or booing or.
I think initially in your career, it's there when you're learning. You sort of it's a little. As you get longer in the tooth, it's just a bit of. I hate using this word, but this white noise thing. It's a bit like that. Free kick counts. When you go, oh my God, Freo have had 39 free kicks and Giants have had 10. How's that possible? The reality is we don't get a sheet that says, boys, you've got to square this up. This is crazy. If they're generally there, we'll pay them. It could be 50-2. Sometimes we might do a review and it might be even more for the team that's got the most free kicks. If you pay the warranted, that's all we ask for. So free kicks don't have to be even. We don't discuss them, and it's never generally an issue. I mean, when you walk off the field and you look up, geez, didn't feel like that. Sometimes it happens, but the team in front, winning by 100 points, is generally first of the ball. They're getting the free kicks for high. They're getting the poor tackles, and some teams are pretty ill-disciplined with their tackling, and it does cost you frees. So
what do you talk about at quarter time, half time, 3/4 time, and after the game?
Quarter time, we might get some feedback from our coach up in the box, just saying, good start, guys. Good intensity levels, just general stuff. We don't get a whiteboard up and say, hey guys, really awesome free kick there against Will Schofield. He's holding on. We don't get
maybe
that.
You might get numbers of you've you've hit 10 out of, you've got 10 out of 10 right?
No numbers. Because what if a coach said, "Don't you missed 6 free kicks in the first quarter?" I said, in my mind, then my God, do I miss more? Do I pay more?
Compensate.
My stress levels go.
Welcome to fucking time as a player, Dean. I'll tell you what happens at quarter time in the player huddle. Scully, you've missed 6 targets, mate. You need to try to run it out in the second quarter. This is
I
good.
only made 6 errors in my career, so I don't know how you went with 1 game. But we get feedback mostly post game because there's so much happening. We can't review. Sometimes I'll say up, "Was that okay?" And the coach might say, "Yep, looks okay," and you get the feedback like it was an error because they know that it might play with your mind. So you've got to be mindful of that.
That's the other thing, like make-up calls, is that, I mean, I feel like it happens, but
It's a dirty word, Dan. Does not happen.
It doesn't?
Nope.
Does it or
What's
not?
a make-up call mean? What does it mean? Tell me what you mean.
Okay, so you've missed a high tackle, in your mind, you're like, I probably should have paid that.
Blatantly high tackle.
The next time it comes around, maybe that's not a high tackle, but you're like, I'm going to give it to make up for the last one.
So just make it up.
Well, not make it up, but you're like, if it was 50-50, you're going to err on the side of give the decision.
Never happens.
Never.
Well, I can't speak for other umpire, but for me, you can only pay what you see and take it on. It's like walking down a hotel corridor, right? You open up one door, free kick, good, close. Next one, boom. You can't be going, "Oh my God, did I leave the iron on in that room?" You just got to keep moving forward because it'll just haunt you forever. You look haunted, Dan, too.
Dan's a big West Coast fan, Dan, and
you're hurting, mate. I understand you're hurting.
He's a bit.
No, it's just I'm not saying it like it just AFL. Like I feel like it happens a lot in basketball. Like there's other sports where I think that the umpires or officials go, like, I need to make up for that mistake.
Yeah, I don't think that happens.
Okay.
But certainly umpires are human, and I know I've made a mistake. No one feels worse than the umpire. I remember I missed a high tackle to Mark Lacroix in a derby many years ago. Sean McManus took his head off, and I was just in a position where I could not see. And the crowd goes up, and I go, "Oh my God!" Then Lacroix goes off at me, and I'm thinking, "Oh." Then I look at the replay, and oh my God, his head's still bouncing down the Hay Street Mall as we speak. But I went up to Mark and said, "Look, mate, I just missed it, mate," and he was okay with it. He still reminds me to this day.
I was going to say, I reckon he's told me about that.
Yeah. I'm going to go down to Savannah's and umpire him too. We've got to square the ledge at me and Lecker, so we'll sort that out in the coming weeks.
Is there specific players that you remember giving you more feedback than others? Or
you know what I found? The players, when they're coming close to the end of their careers, started going crazy. Really? Matt Pavlich couldn't do what he used to do, frustrated. Mark Lacroix, not as nippy, missing the goals, couldn't do it. Will Schofield, scrag more than ever. You knew that was coming. Yes. So you know that because you just can't do what you don't have the same speed, you don't have the same goal, you don't have the same smarts. And I find that the players coming to the end, you just know.
Did you get better as an umpire as you got older?
Yeah, I did.
Right to the end?
Yeah.
To the very end?
Yeah.
I wish I was no.
No, seriously.
I still got the player in me. I'm like,
I knew I wasn't as fast as I used to be, but I still thought I was in really good physical condition. So, I would have liked to done a couple more years, but that happens.
Does the umpire dissent piece that's being honestly, I spoke to you for probably 3 weeks ago about umpire dissent, and it was really being rolled out hot by Brad Scott, saying no level of dissent is acceptable. We don't accept any level of dissent. Didn't really define what dissent was, and that was kind of my issue. What do you think of player umpire relations? Up until you retired and in general right now.
As good as it's ever been, to be honest. I mean, and that's all on the back of the visits we have, the rapport we build. I think players really respect the role that we have and understand how hard our job is. So the dissent thing, I didn't know where this arms out came from. It was never even mentioned any time last year, so I don't know where it came from. These 6,000 short umpires that Gill obviously raised in the AFL, I'm not sure putting your arms back is going to stop that, if you know what I mean. I don't know if that's relevant. The one that hurt us the most, in my view, was Easter Monday. When Jack Gunston and Tom Mitchell were talking 50 minutes off the ball, and they sort of pointed at the screen and said, "Hey, Umpy, was that a free for that?" That's not dissent. That's a conversation between players. And if we don't blow that 50, no one's even talking about it. The fact that the umpire blew the whistle, said, "Respect." Everyone's going, "Oh, what was that for?" Then when you go and look at it, you go, "Oh my God, I reckon that put more pressure on umpiring by paying that than if we had just let it go and had the conversation." So I reckon that one hurt us a bit. I understand the aggressive arms out, throw the mouth guard, point at the scoreboard. But the one on Friday night when I think was it Mackenzie when he said, "Hey, hit the ground," that wasn't aggressive. That was just having that was just interaction. I just reckon that's a little bit strong. We've gone a little bit too far.
I mean, some umpires. I mean, not every umpire is the same. No single umpire is the same as the other. You have different personalities. Yeah. You have the different abilities, different talent, different experience. How does that get balanced with, I guess, what you do in terms of Is it the same as players? You got young players, old players,
100%.
and everyone in the middle?
No doubt. You got good decision makers. I mean, I could umpire you where you'd know me by first name, but there'd be an umpire come from Melbourne, you wouldn't have a clue who he was. So you're not sure what the boundaries are. Now, my dissent boundaries would be far greater than a second gamer. I mean, Brad Scott made a bit of his rod for him back. He put this new rule out there and then said, but it's up to the umpire to make the call. Yes. Well, if I make the call that I don't think it's aggressive, am I going to get clipped, or what does that mean? So I think it left it a bit ambiguous.
They've wound that back, by the way, just so we know. They're not paying those hands out as much.
Well, the players aren't doing it as much either. But in that game we were talking about, that Friday night game, there was a couple of pretty aggressive ones. We didn't pay those, and the guy just sort of pointed at the ground. We paid it. So there's that inconsistency, and that's where the frustration is sometimes born.
Yeah. Okay.
What about Brownlow votes? I'd love to find out how that all works. Your thought process and who you give votes to. Do you get to see stats before you make your decision? All of that. No,
it's a good question. I get asked. That's probably the most question. That's the highest rating question I get. Is how's Brownlow work?
We're taking a while to get into that.
Yeah, that's good. Some days it's really easy. It takes 5 minutes. Some days it can take us 45 minutes. Because we know how important the award is.
So you're together?
Yep, all three of us. So 4 of us, the emergency umpire comes in, just gives us his feedback. Because he sits there and watches it from the ground. So, okay, fair enough. Generally, it validates what we're thinking. Do we get a sheet? There you go, Dean, that's the sheet. No, we don't. If I'm walking off the ground and some numbers flash up, I'll glance at it as a cursory, but it doesn't sort of form my view that, oh my God, he had 38 kicks, so we've got to have, that doesn't matter. It's influence on game. Who had the most influence on this match? And I could, I'm using West Coast players, Will, since you played there, I'll throw it back to you. If Josh Keeney kicked 9 goals, Tim Kelly had 41 disposals, or Jerry McGovern took 23 intercept marks and kept Buddy to 2 goals, who are you giving the votes to? That's the conversation. You don't know. So they're the things we go, who influence, how do we go? And sometimes it's subjective.
I tell you what, it's not the backman. That's the answer.
No, it's never going to be the backman.
Did you ever get any votes at all?
1 game.
Wow.
And I looked up if you umpired, and I was like, please tell me you weren't. No, you weren't.
I was going to hang my hat on that one too.
It was Carlton at West Coast, and I would have just...
That's impressive, isn't it, to get one?
Oh, very, very happy as a backman. I got 1 vote. I may have been confused and linked together with 2 players. I mean, honestly, I played better games than that and was more influential. And, it was one thing I like in my career. I wasn't often in the best. I played my role a lot. That's what I was. I was a role player, but I wouldn't wake up in the morning and see my name in the best players. Yeah. But the games I did, I never got Brownlow votes for.
Do average players say that? I'm a role player. Is that their go-to?
Is that what you reckon?
No, I'm just asking. I'm just saying that.
Oh, Dean. I like this attitude, Dean. I'll come straight back at you.
I've got 20 years pent up. I want to release the man.
Well, this is a perfect time. Talk about our relationship on the field. Do you have any specific memories of Will Schofield on the footy field?
It was more the Tuesday sessions after the game. Like sometimes if I'd paid some frees against Will, which he thought were poor, when we come to the clubs, he just wouldn't talk to me. He just would turn his back on me. He'd get really prickly. He wouldn't move on. And that's a true story. And that's why I'm glad you asked that question. Because
I thought I was always quite interpersonal.
You were generally. But if you felt there was a couple on the weekend that didn't quite go your way, then Tuesday or whatever Wednesday session, it didn't work for Will and I.
I could see that.
It was like Will and Grace arguing, but there was no love.
I remember pretty much every free kick that was ever given against me, Dean. So I've got a list of them here.
There's 1,000 on there.
No. I think Will said 2 weeks ago that you've actually never given away a free kick.
I can't remember ever doing something in the game that deserved giving a free kick away.
If we just go back to that 60 seconds of all the things you did, tried to do, manipulated, knew the umpire was to do it this side. Oh, that was impressive. The thought that went into that planning, I like that.
I reckon to get away with the free kicks, I would have given away 15 free kicks a game. That's one thing. If every free kick was paid during a game of footy, you blokes would be even more unpopular than you are.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Because so you don't pay every free kick that's there. So I get into it a bit on social with people when I start calling out stuff like that. Oh, well, there's a free kick. It's in the rules. You don't pay every free kick that's there, Dan.
Because there's that subjectivity and that technicality. So if I just glance Dan's shoulder, is that a high tackle? Technically yes, but do we want to pay that? Probably not. So because we could pay 100 free kicks in a game. The average is about 37.8. And when it goes to 50 or a mum, we're like, oh, that's a lot of free kicks. So they'll probably review that game more than the other ones because of the trend is your friend scenario.
Yes.
So that might highlight it a bit to the powers that be.
What about notorious like duckers and people that ham it up a bit? I mean, it's hard because they're trying to sell a free kick. So what about that notion around calling a sold free kick?
Yeah, well, the rules have changed. So duck's now prior opportunity. If you get tackled on your arm, you flip it up. A bit like the players we're talking to without naming names. But
I will. Luke Shuey, Joel Selwood.
Yep. I didn't name them.
No, absolutely.
Former player did. So the rules have sort of helping us to protect that. There's some players absolutely still do it, but again, you can only pay what you see. But certainly, should I go into a game thinking, okay, if that bloke flips and flops, don't pay it. If it's genuine, we should pay it. He deserves it.
Go back to the Brownlow medal. So you guys come up with your 3-2-1.
Yep.
Do umpires have a better idea than a punter would of who's going to win the Brownlow each year, honestly?
This is a really good question. And people say the umpires can't do it. They've got too much to worry about, too much to concentrate on. It's the most sacrilege award in footy, isn't it? We have the West Australian Player of the Year, the Herald Sun Player of the Year, the MVP, all that palaver. Now, if we got 4 media people to do the Brownlow, it is so open to corruption. So, I mean, all the media punters punt on footy. We know that. You can tell by their mood changes in the box and that. So, if you could imagine them sitting here going, okay, let's just work this out. You telling me they wouldn't be ringing India and Mumbai? And it couldn't happen. This is one award where it's a bit like Fight Club. You just don't talk about Fight Club. Yeah. It's like Brownlow Club. We do the votes, and that's it. Once we sign that back, that armour guard slip, that's it. We don't talk about it again. Now, people say, you must know. I said, how can I know? I do one game a week of 23 rounds. There's 8 other games happening, which I have got no clue what's going on. So how could I know? Even if I wrote them all in my little notebook, I couldn't still track them, could I? It's not possible.
Do umpires get invited to the Brownlow?
Only the grand final. This hurts. This hurts this bit. It's the umpires award. But we only get the 3 grand final umpires from the year before only get invited. Why is that?
Why is that?
I hate that. It's the one thing. If Gil could change that before you leave, because I've umpired for 20 years, and the only way I got to a Brownlow was last year because I was at home in Optus and we were invited, which was nice.
Yeah.
I'm not sure Brett Rose needs to go to 9 or Matt Stephen needs to go to 8. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if that's right. We should have a table of 10 and we just rotate it. Once you're in 100 games, you get a chance to go and you can say I've experienced it.
I think all umpires.
The Brownlow medal is not part of the grand final. It's home and away.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a nonsense. That's a prickly thing for me.
Do you watch it all together?
No.
Does anyone? Do you care? Do umpires care?
We're interested.
Yeah.
I think sometimes you might go, I remember write that one down. You try and remember.
I was going to say
you try and remember.
Yeah.
But
one vote Schofield.
No, we'd all remember that. Celebration.
Dude, I love your aggression. I really do. This is why I respected you as an umpire. What about the tribunal then? Okay, so Brownlow medal, that's how you deal with that. Tribunal is an umpire thing as well.
Not anymore.
No, it's not.
No,
You're right.
we report it. Chris, I ring up and say, I don't know, that report you made against Schofield, we've had a look at it. This is what we think. What do you think? I said, that's pretty much what it is, and that's it. It's no 10 years, 15 years, I have to put the suit on, go into the city, sit in the room like this, get the QC, and it was like a full-on panic attack. You're getting grilled by QCs and judges and going, hey, I just saw Will whack that bloke. That's all I saw. Can I go now? It gets pretty full-on. It's intimidating.
Have you reported many people on the field, on-field reports?
Yeah, maybe.
Buddy Franklin, I remember.
I did. Yeah. That got a bit of courage because you report a high-profile player and then you're on the back page of the paper. I didn't report Tom Hawkins for the touchy thing that happened at Geelong.
Was that you?
Yeah, it was me. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Funny story, that one.
Tom's been on this on BackChat.
Has he really?
Yep.
Has he apologised? Anyhow.
To who? Me. He whacked me in a elimination final.
Did he really?
No,
Nothing.
No umpires. Wow. No one came to my defence. So don't act like you're all high and mighty. You're humanised.
I've got nothing.
No humanised. No sympathy.
Yeah. In that game was Giants and Geelong at Jimba Stadium. It's a long trip from a boy from Perth. We went down there and I paid a 50 against Tom. And as he came toward me, I said, Tom, easy. And he sort of knocked my hand away. It was a bucket reflex. I didn't think much of it. I said, mate, Tom, just don't touch me. And then nothing happened. Get in the car and my phone's blown up. I thought, what's going on here? And then obviously it became a massive issue. The umpire contact, on the back page of the Herald Sun, and you all of a sudden become pretty famous in the footy landscape. So I never felt aggrieved by it, but I don't think it's a good look for the game if you've got high-profile players doing that. So obviously the filter is not good, and we have contact issues with umpires at junior level, and that's not good. And we saw the Toby Green one. That was a pretty strong message. But if you look at that, that's just average, I would have thought. You got Matt Stevick in a fluoro green shirt, and you got a player walking towards him. I didn't see you. Do you see like the bloke in the fluoro vest on the road? Give me a spot. So anyhow.
Yeah, it's interesting because umpires are right there. You're right in the contest. You're right. It's not like you don't exist.
Yeah.
So it is potential that stuff like that happens.
I can take clips and knocks and bumps. No, sorry, mate. It's all good. But the ones where it's a face-to-face interaction, I think they're a bit different.
Did you get any hits?
Yeah.
Backing out of a
Yeah, Stuart Lowe hit me at Amy Stadium once.
Stewie Lowe.
I think he's still on the ground. He never got up. I was worried, but I was hard. I was like Michael Tuck, hard wiring.
I'm surprised you're just sitting here right now. You're not split in half. He was a big man, Stewie Lowe.
He had hands like it's extraordinary. Like he could hold like they reckon 26 eggs in his cupped hands. But yeah, that's going a long way back now. Yeah.
Do you practice running backwards?
I get asked that question all the time. Like a lot of people ask that. We do. They are part of the drills, but not like you do laps and laps backwards. But they are part of it because sometimes you have to run backwards.
Is there direction to that? Like in terms of when you're coming to this angle of the play, you need to flip around and run backwards.
Not really. Just how you feel in the game. If you're doing a 50, you obviously want to back off because players are charging you. I've got to have comms with players. Just hold there. We'll keep out of the zone. So I'm running backwards a fair bit, but we don't practice it. Like we don't do laps and laps doing backwards running. That would be a bit of a nonsense.
Imagine.
I know you almost marked the ball once it came at you pretty close.
I did, yeah. I never.
You almost had a Peter Carey.
Nearly.
You sort of ducked.
Yeah, but that duck, they still shot at me almost looking like an alien, and that got played around. I said that was a horrid look for me. Yeah, umpire blunder it was titled, and I was like, yeah.
What about bouncing the ball? Because part of me, the person who just loves like the traditional aspect of footy, like wants to keep the bounce, but if you never bounce the ball and you always throw it up, it would always be an even contest. So will there ever be a time where they get rid of the bounce?
Why don't we just get a round ball down, just have an even contest everywhere? Let's just do that, make it all flat and normal.
No, but to set the game, to start the game, then it's even, but then the ball can go crazy.
So let's just have a tip.
That's my question.
But let's just get NBA players in, just do tip offs, just have a nice flat.
That's what people are calling for. Penalty's out there calling for it right now because Grundy went down with an injury.
Yeah,
that's why.
If Brody doesn't go down, is he bringing it up? No. I wouldn't have thought so. No, I think the great thing about our game is just the nuance of the oval shaped ball, the bounce, the Stephen Mill. That bounces to him. He's a premiership player. That bounces the other way. He's not. His career's defined by that. Bouncing the ball, I can bounce it pretty straight most of the time. Ray Chamberlain not as high. Matt Nichols really high. So there's varying heights, and players have to adjust, and sometimes they drift off, and we call play. I think that's the great thing about our game. Having said that, I don't want to have umpires who are good decision makers, left out of the game because of a skill that they probably can't master.
Yes.
So that's the balance. Should we just maybe start each quarter, maybe, and then soften back to throwing up? Because once we do a bad bounce, no one cares when we throw it. This is great. Let's get the game going. It's only umpiring people who probably care.
I've got a few more to ask from us, and then I think we're going to get to Scotial media. It's absolutely packed. Yeah. Absolutely packed. And before we get to Scotial, we're going to do a bit of D. Margetts' social readouts, if that's all right. 3 more from me. If you want to chuck one in there, you can. What was it like travelling as an umpire? People forget that you guys travel, just like players do, exactly the same. Did it affect your game? Did you enjoy the travel aspect?
Yeah, I did.
Got a family as well?
Yeah, I had no choice but to travel. But I've had Melbourne umpires come over and go, how on earth did you do this? What did I do it? 239 times, or whatever I did, crazy amount. I think I've gone around the world 8 times in my travel, 1.8 million kilometres.
Wow.
I enjoyed it, actually. You get your appointment on Monday. Okay, I know I'm flying out Friday. My game's at 2:40 Saturday. I know I'll be home at midnight. That was part of my journey, my enjoyment. I could, go get some kids' gear in the shops and stuff. You sort of just plan around all those things. So am I going to miss that part? Yeah, absolutely. I love the camaraderie of, catching up with umpires in Melbourne for dinner and, talking and post-game catch-ups. I miss that because that's, as I say, we're not even the players, catching up. And as much as we don't get to see each other, during the week, the games were the special part of what we did it for. So, yeah, I missed that part, but I enjoyed it. I mean, sometimes it was tough. You do those Sunday afternoon twilight games and they finish at 5:50 and you're on the 8:30 flight and you get home at 1 o'clock and you're back at work. I mean, I'm not like players. I'm not playing PlayStations on Monday for covering. I'm at work.
That's my next question. Yeah, Dean, stop whacking me. I'm not a player anymore. I'm on the same level as you.
I'd go into the West Coast players' lounge. They're on ping pong, Nintendo. I'm thinking I've got to go back to work after I've just done this session.
Been abused for an hour.
And they're just having their lattes. I'm going, how good's this game? But my God, get me into this.
The mess.
I cannot say I was not having lattes with the players. I was walking past their kitchen.
So correct. Genuine, just PlayStation set up everywhere. And ping pong. I mean, that's my next question. Is anyone full time right now as an umpire? Yeah. And has anyone ever been? And what was that like balancing between and umpiring?
Really good question. People we should be full time. I always said no because some players' careers last for 20 years like mine, and some umpires' careers last 7 years. So if you go full time umpire, what do you do if you retire at 46? Oh shit, I'm just an umpire. What am I going to do? So
hang on, before you keep going, counter that with as a player. What am I meant to do at 33 when I retire?
Have you got more? Yeah, it's a good question. But you were full-time getting triple, quadruple the money that the player got, umpire got.
You don't know what I earned during my career, Dave.
Are you going to share? No. but I'm saying it's different. I mean, our highest paid umpires are probably on our best umpires, top 10, maybe 150, 160 a year. So it's reasonable, but they've got a job. Full-time, would it make me a better umpire? It wouldn't. NRL umpires are full-time. Are they any better? I see howlers weekly. No, you're full-time. But it's just the way the game's played. It wouldn't change my preparation. I work in footy now, obviously, but I had a job where, and I always treated umpiring as my sport. That was just my release valve, and I was lucky I got to do it at the highest level with the best players on the best ground, so I was really fortunate. But I think I needed a bit of a balance. What if you're injured for 2 years and you couldn't umpire? What are you going to do? There's only so much vision or so many schools you can go to and talk about umpiring. I think you need a balance. So I don't think it wouldn't stop me making 3 errors a game if I was full-time. And I think that's what Eddie Maguire says, make them full-time, pay them $300 again. They'll just be better. I'm not convinced we would be.
Yeah, I mean, you see some players go about it. They're probably on $500,000-600,000. They're not very good, are they?
That's what I mean, yeah.
Not going to name any players either, Dave. Last one. Why aren't there more past players umpiring? What do you think? I mean, you started playing your career, but I'm talking AFL players, finish the game, go into umpiring. I'm surprised there's not more of those.
Well, I heard you on a show the other week, we were saying you basically tore your calf walking up your own stairs. So what I'm saying there is the fitness levels of players drop off very quickly. And I think we spoke about this on the phone.
Yes.
And it's a great question. We'd love more players to umpire. But the reality is at 33 years of age, they've retired, they've been through all these pre-seasons, and umpiring's not easy. You've got to do a pre-season. You've got to train twice a week. You've got to get scrutiny. You're going to have to get some social media feedback. And you're like, I don't want that. And we're going to pay $350 a week to do it. Will's going, I don't walk out my front door for $350, so I'm not going to do umpiring. So that's why it's hard. We'd love more. And Lee Fisher's done it. Jordan Bannister did it. Andre Gin Fagner's done it. Brett Wallace has done it. But again, they were early to late 20s. They weren't sort of like 30, 35. I mean, it's a big caper and
taking a toll on
it's
the body.
Tough. I'd love to have more in it. We'd love, but we had a player come down last year. I can't remember what his name was, but I want to do it. Lasted one session, didn't see him again.
It's the fitness element.
It's tough.
Like how many Ks are you covering in a game?
Anywhere between 13 and 15 Ks a game.
Same as players. Just for reference.
And if the players come off, you go off and have a ice vest and have a drink and sit there for 3 minutes. We don't come off.
So I mean, I know you didn't umpire 2018 grand final, clearly, but oh no, I've been waiting to whack you. But
you didn't come off a lot. Defenders don't. I know, I understand. But honestly, other than Ed Langdon, I think
we're tackled, we're getting ravaged.
Understand, but we're still out there for the whole game.
Yes,
don't come off. There's
Do you want a trophy?
rotation.
Would you like a medal? Trophy?
I think Ed Langdon and Stephen May are the only two players in the AFL who have not come off all season.
Yeah, I think that's underrated as well at Melbourne. They've got guys that makes a big difference in their midfield.
Yeah. Because
Oliver, Petrarca don't play 100% game time and they get time to rest and then they come on and then the most impactful players in the competition.
It's good and interesting, isn't it?
And two guys to do that in one team would mean at a minimum 2 more changes a game for the team, and that would go to the midfield. But it's probably 3 or 4 because the way it changes around everyone, they'd be getting extra change or 3 in their midfield. Which is why they're the best in the comp, not why they're best in the comp.
But can I just say to all BackChat viewers, I have challenged Will Schofield to come to the Waffle umpiring group just to get a feel of what it's like to be a boundary umpire, a goal umpire, and a field umpire, and then he'll report back and go, "Geez, it's bloody hard caper. That's why no players do it."
Roaming Charlie. I reckon we got
I reckon
massive under the lights at Ernest Johnson Reserve in Como. Watch this space.
Dan v. Will.
I'll come.
It'd be huge.
How do you think you'd go as an umpire, Dan?
I reckon I could bounce it well. I've done it a lot.
You've done it a lot.
Yeah.
When was the last time you bounced a ball in the middle of the MCG?
Come on. No, but I when you take the footy down to the park, I'm always just chucking it down.
When was the last time you took it?
We're going to get 30 umpires in a circle. You're going to go in the middle with all the heat and the pressure of the scrutiny.
Brilliant.
Put you in the cricket pitch at EJ. This is
The
huge.
thing that scares
now I'm getting excited.
The thing that scares me the most is it throwing it backwards because I feel like they get it in the a lot of the time just in the perfect spot. And you just
more questions. Okay, so players would stand around waiting for training and practice bouncing. Do umpires standing around for training have shots at goal and kick the footy and handball?
We used to, but a couple of our goal umpires got a ball in the head and it got a bit OH&S. It was a bit untidy. And then we had a couple of Hemis go and we just need umpires. But we used to do a bit of that. With some of our drills, handball drills, we're all frustrated former footballers, so that doesn't leave.
That's interesting.
But some players bounce the ball pretty well. I remember we'd come down to training and
Luke Shuey does it well.
And I was like, that's not bad. Then I said, how about umpiring? He says, you're kidding, aren't you?
That's very good. Have you got anything else to chat about?
No, let's get into Schofield.
Before we do Schofield, I want to do.
That's right.
I want to do this in the middle. So, So, I mean, one really big reason to get you on here, mate, is that human element. Because, like, I did experience the human element. I like, and again, I know I'm taking the piss, but I hate umpires as much as anyone else because you actually affected me more than the punter sitting in the stands. Like, it's my job that, and I know it was never what you meant. You're applying the rules, but that's just how it went. And I've got a good nature about it, and we can sit back and have a laugh. But you see a lot of players speaking about the interactions they have with the public, both externally and on social media. And for me personally, I know a lot of guys, 95%, 99% is positive.
Yep.
And people are respectful and can give banter and give you shit and you can give it back and it's all good. But I reckon umpires may actually cop more on social media. Is that, do you reckon that's true?
Yes, that's
You've seen players come out saying it, but what's it like finishing up after a game on social media for an umpire?
My last 5 years, I've never seen it as bad. I would get into my car and just click on it, and occasionally I wouldn't click on it for weeks. And I go, "What's all these message requests there? You know, in the messenger there." And I clicked on it, and all of a sudden, boom, there they were. And then Instagram came on, and people would say to me, "Why do you go on them now?" I said, "Well, why should I not be able to share photos with my kids and family because of some nufties on there? I shouldn't change my life. I'm a human, but it does make for good fodder to share with people when you do some speeches and stuff."
Betting, team losing, what was the driver?
It was just creative feedback for me on what they thought I was as a person and what my mum should be doing, what my wife did all that stuff, very personal stuff. It wasn't about you cost me my multi or that free kick. It was just all personal.
Have you got some?
I have.
I'd love to hear them if you want to share.
This is one. I'm going to read it exactly how I get it. So this was 6:34 p.m. on August the 2nd, 2 years ago.
So straight after the game.
Mate, you are the most one-sided ever. Go back to fucking umpiring junior footy, you mong. You're so bad and you should be ashamed of yourself. Go to Specsavers, you fucking blind fuck. You legit look like a pedophile, you prick.
That's hectic.
Luke Greenmount. We'll name names here. We should name names, shouldn't we?
Mate,
absolutely.
Dead set, mate. Dead set, mate. Hand in your whistle. You're a flog. You're a cheating fucking dog, mate.
Oh. Wow.
You are a cheating prick, and because the AFL is corrupt, you will get away with it. You are a one-eyed eagle, and I've gone through the stats over the years, and I've got the numbers. You have consistently screwed Fremantle, and you constantly get the Eagles back in games when they are behind. You are a disgrace to Aussie rules, not AFL because it's a joke. Your family and I have no doubt you will burn in hell for your lack of professionalism and arrogance. Up yours.
You will burn your family, and you'll burn in hell.
Yeah.
Jeez.
No Kennedy, no Optus, no Dean Margetts, no West Coast. Thanks, Neil Burton. You are the shittest fucking umpire and always trying to stitch up Freo, you stupid Karnt.
I will say, look, if an umpire's ever had an impact on a game, I'd spew up. Like, I fully get it. Sitting in the crowd, listening, watching, whatever you're doing, you get frustrated with umpiring decisions. I still do it. But there's no way it impacts the game because it impacts everybody. Like, yes, it impacts the game, but it impacts the teams.
This one here, hope you get glassed next time you umpire Optus, you scumbag. So this photo here, I'm not sure if you can see that. That's a picture of me talking to 3 Eagles players before a game. I think it's Luke Shuey, Tom Barrass and Josh Kennedy. You may not be able to zoom in on there.
Yeah.
That's just an interaction pre-game.
Yeah.
I'm having a giggle. It was actually a bit of a joke about, I think, probably the banter I cop regarding West Coast players. So that picture got taken by someone in the crowd and then, well, away it goes. Now, I've had pictures with Nat Fife and players, and so they'll just assume that we're having a laugh about whatever they're thinking, and it's so not accurate. Because we could have had those laughs at training and no one would see that, would they? So that's where it got a little bit unsavoury. I've had death threats left in my letterbox. I had to get like the AFL integrity department to sort of put a little camera on my letterbox for a week or two. Now, I accept my role in umpiring. I've probably been the face of footy in umpiring for probably the last 15 years. That's just part of it. Because most people would name another umpire in WA, could you? Other than Jeff Douglas, you'd know. Yeah. But outside that, you wouldn't probably know. But I think when it goes to that point when your family start to get affected and your parents, and that's a bit untidy.
Absolutely.
Disgusting. And sometimes I replied to these. I was going to reply back and say, how would you like it if that was your son or daughter? And you get, I didn't think you were real. I didn't know if that was really you. I said, well, who do you think it was going to be? Like, so
that's what I was going to ask Ness, because like I've copped similar maybe, but I always front foot it and just go straight back at them because you're a person too, right? And they should know that. Like, they need to know that too. You want to say that, like, I'm down at the Queen's Hotel. Come down and have a beer with me. Like, exactly. Always friendly. I'm going to fight you.
No,
I've never fought anyone in my life. But it's like, if you actually want to talk about it, let's have a chat. Come down and have a chat.
Yeah.
Not one person's ever had a chat.
Do it. I actually got one lady who found her husband's account who actually emailed me back and apologised. I cannot believe my husband did that. I suffer from mental health, and if it's cool, it was really nice. But yeah, it gets a bit crazy. I mean, there was one Freo supporter who just launched something. I saw his photo, and I looked at it, and he was hugging his 2 grandkids. This bloke about 60. I thought, mate, are you serious? Like, you're writing that and you hold... So I actually sent it to the AFL. The AFL contacted Freo, and he was actually a member. And to Freo's credit, they actually ended up suspending the bloke for probably a couple of years just for that's not what their club represented. So I just thought that was a really good message that that club sort of supported the game, the umpires rolled in it, and they didn't want to stand for that. So, the old standard you walk past is the standard you accept. I think that was a really good message.
Well, I would just wrap that up with, well, you just got to respect people, don't you?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, be good to one another.
Happy with that?
Yep.
You're not on Cameo, are you, Dino?
Cameo?
Yeah, I thought maybe it applies for Dean Margetts to live on. That would be that actually would be fire.
Yeah.
So Cameo is a place, celebrity request. Now, depends what sort of level celebrity we're talking about with you, Dean. But
high level functioning one, I would have thought.
So Cameo, you can do requests for Mother's Day coming up.
Yeah.
Mother's Day.
Yeah.
Will, get me on that.
Right.
Yeah.
You can do, Dean Margetts gives you a message. They might want a Freo fan, a West Coast fan, and you can send them a direct message. I actually think you go.
Can you agent me? Can you hook me in?
Mate,
BackChat's
we've got the code.
here.
Yeah, BackChat. Yeah.
Yep.
Would you actually do that or not?
Absolutely, I would. 100%. I want to do that.
That would blow up.
Yeah, it would.
I'll come to house. I'll give green shirts out.
No. You don't need to go out. You don't need to leave your house.
I'll go new level. I'll go next level.
Well,
for an extra 100, I'll go.
Social media brought to you by Cameo and Dean Margetts.
Yeah, let's do that. I'd love to do that. It's
All right,
fun.
great. Okay, good.
I had heard about that, but
we're going to sort you out.
Let's humanise the umpires, eh?
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay. So social media, which you would have heard about before as well. You heard about that?
I have.
Social media, one of the greatest podcasting segments of all time, where the people get to ask the guests the question. Enough of me and Dan.
We are but a conduit to you and the fan.
We all good over there, Charlie? We all got enough memory on the memory card? We don't want to run out with this one. This is a big episode. Morgan, _, Clug.
The most respectful player you umpired?
Most respectful.
Harry Taylor, Geelong.
Yeah.
Just 3 votes.
No, not votes. No, defender.
Just the way you say it.
I didn't mean that. No, he was the sort of guy that he always say, hey, now, Dino, that freak, I think you're right, but can you just... You almost wanted to give him a cuddle when you explained. You almost felt bad. He was just such a nice bloke.
Did you get that on the field with Harry Taylor?
No, I was thinking of umpires. Harry Taylor, incredibly respectful. Know him off the field, but need to get him on BackChat.
Yeah, okay,
He's in WA now.
He's a good fella. I've always had a good rapport with Josh Kennedy. He's always been a really good fella, and I just want to congratulate Josh on his 700th goal. He's a great person, and well done for that great achievement. Dave Mundy was always a good fella. Dave Mundy.
JK, I have recollections of JK. Dino, like quarter time break, or he just called Dino, mate, I've got this bloke hanging off me. You've got to be able to help me out.
That's exactly what he says.
I'm really pleading. Dino, I know you're trying to do a job, mate, but he speaks like that.
But can I just say, though, on my last game, when I'm walking off the Western Derby last year, when obviously they're all shaking hands, Josh Kennedy ran from his pocket to run to shake my hand and say congrats on a great career, because I always joked with Shannon, Josh, about who was going to last longer. And I said, I've got you covered, you old blokes. And they beat me. But to his crowd, that was a really nice moment. And my friends in the crowd sort of filmed that, and it's something that I've always kept. So I think that was, out of all the players, he raced after me and said, hey, well done, a good career. So I really appreciated that.
Did you get clapped off?
The Dockers, it took me 377 games, 20 years to get a standing ovation. Now, I know Freo won, but I was nice. I actually stood out there and sort of savoured the moment a bit and said thank you. I actually gave a kid my sweatband.
You can say your watch.
It's a rock star.
Take off your Rolex, mate.
I gave him my sweatband, and then the next day he said, Dean Margetts sweatband, $1,000, smells like deep heat. I said, $1,000? If you get 10, you've stolen. It's on there somewhere. It was really funny.
That's great. All right, we're going to whip through these because we've got a lot. Stefan _1039.
What's the hardest rule to adjudicate?
Holding the ball. There's so many cues, so many layers.
Okay.
Tim Scoey.
Relation?
I don't know. It's spelt the right way.
We've already covered this. Let's move on.
Sorry.
It's about Brownlow votes.
Okay. T double underscore Dizzy triple underscore. Very good.
The first one there?
Yeah, first one.
On average, how many kilometres does an AFL umpire? We've done that.
Yeah, sorry. Next one.
Would you be surprised if in the next 2 to 3 years there are AFL umpires being busted for match fixing?
Staggered. Absolutely staggered.
Yeah.
Won't happen.
Great.
Hasn't happened for 100 years and won't happen the next 100 years. It just won't.
This is a good one. Mark.Evans13.
The Mark Evans from Gold Coast? Mark Evans?
Maybe.
No. This show's got legs.
It would not surprise me
No.
if former CEO of Gold Coast was listening.
Help settle a debate between me and my girlfriend. Are the umpire shirts green or yellow? She says they're yellow. We got one behind us.
Who's she? Is there a name there for
Wife,
she? Wife of?
No, Mrs. of Mark Evans.
I'm sorry to say, Mrs. Evans, it's green.
Is
not
it?
Yellow. Having said that, though, our clash strip is yellow. So she might have seen a yellow game. Yeah. So technically, they're both right.
What about when you went through the period of there was blokes in
orange?
blue and purple and orange?
No, so we got
red.
We had red, orange, green, white, and
did you have to pack them all but come into the game?
I never did. So I got on the plane always in a full stress, going, if I didn't print off the sheet and highlight that colour, it was A lot of guys forgot shirts. I know one umpire had to. I think he chartered an Uber from Geelong to the MCG because he forgot his gear, and it was just a nightmare. Yeah,
I reckon bring back the white with the blue and red strip.
Yeah, I love that.
Did you umpire?
Yeah, that was my first 4 or 5 years. I love that. It was soft material. Legit. I looked fast in white. I could get across the ground good.
What about Hayden Naka?
How common was it for players to cross the line in terms of abuse standpoint? And do you wish the current rules were in place? Do you wish the current rules were in place from when you first started out?
Not really, because I think it all goes through in cycles. And I never had a massive issue with it. A couple of times the guys would give you a few little sprays which warrant 50, but I never felt in danger, threatened, insulted by many of the conversation with players. I'm comfy with the AFL taking it, but I think it's okay. No, I wouldn't like what's happening today back when I started.
Did you ever give 100?
Yes.
The double 50?
Against Brendan Favola once. Yeah, it was actually a Carlton West Coast game against Glassy. I remember it, 100.
For abuse?
I think it was a free kick. Yep, paid it. And abuse, and then he gave me a bit more feedback. So, we may as well just give him a go. I think I'm pretty sure it was 100. It's a long time ago. I think that's the only one I gave, yeah.
Glassy would have appreciated it, no doubt.
Another good fella, Glassy.
Yes.
Hard defender.
Yes. Chris got Insta.
Way.
No, Chris got Insta, not Chris Scott Insta.
How's he found me?
What was the funniest thing?
I'm not employed anymore. I'm unplugged.
Leave me alone. What was the funniest thing you've ever heard from a player on the field?
That Sam Mitchell one's pretty good. Don't fucking miss.
Probably Nathan Buckley. It was in my 2nd or 3rd year. I think he knew I was from Perth, and I'd played a free kick against him on the wing and CBA Oval. Excuse me. And he looked at me and he goes, Dino, I know you're on TV now. You paid the shittiest free kick. Can we just get on with the game and just sort your shit out, all right? And I'm like, okay, Nathan. I'm thinking, wow, okay, that was a reasonable interaction with one of the game's greats. But I get on really well with Bucks. So as you go on, you sort of play as you umpired, and then they coach. It's always been a pretty good rapport. So Bucks and all those sort of guys.
That's very good. Vossie in there now.
Vossie's in there now.
Evan_Rhett. I like this one.
Would you watch other AFL games on TV and question the umpire's decision?
Or I'll just add a bit onto it, or do what most would do. Oh, not 50 or holding the ball.
Yeah, I do watch it, and sometimes, you do get a bit funny in front of your family. I think you ham it up in front of your friends a bit, but I watch games now. If I go to a game live, I can't watch it because I'm looking for the umpire to talk to me in my earpiece, and there's not there anymore because I'm not out there, so I kind of feel a bit nude when I'm watching a game. But it's very hard. I don't go to many games now. I mean, I get a couple of free tickets every game I want to go to, but when you sit there and people know who you are, you just get... Oh, Margetts, what would you have done? It's a bit of a constant thing, it's a bit easier just watching at home now, unless I'm up in the box.
That's good. Fair enough. Michael_Edwards92.
What is the feeling like when you've made a poor call and the fans are on your back?
If I know I've made a poor call, the fans don't bother me too much, but I know internally I've made a blue. It's not great, but you've got to move on. And there's no umpire feels worse about making a mistake than the umpire themselves. There's nothing worse when you glance up at the replay and you go, oh, how have I missed that? Or why didn't I pay that? Because you just can't get it back.
Do you hear this one? Alex.Newsiante.
Nice. Funniest thing people from the crowd have said.
Do you actually hear that? As a player, I never would, but umpire, do you hear it?
Yeah, when you're on the boundary, anyone who says you can't hear it. If I'm, you're literally 5 metres away.
Yes.
At Optus, you're almost on that level. Yeah, absolutely, you can hear it. I mean, lots of things.
Anything good though, banter-wise?
Not really. I remember my last game, it was almost got to the point where subconsciously the crowd went quiet and I could hear almost everything. It's about time you retired, you old git, and all this stuff. And it was like a 10-year-old kid saying it, then it was like a mum saying it, then it was like a granddad saying it. Why is the whole family coming at me? But not really. I mean, probably the funniest one was when I had this incident on a plane where I had to divert a plane and I had a burst stomach ulcer back in 2015. And as I was getting wheelchaired off, the wheel of shame, you could call it, a couple of Eagles supporters said, well, these fucking Eagles will have a good start of the season. He's in hospital. That's really at my lowest ebb. Anyway.
I actually had that in my...
I've moved on though.
Yeah.
Had that in our notes very early on that you and I have that in common because I've caused an emergency landing because I had a seizure once.
Dead set.
And that walk of shame down the aisle...
Nothing worse.
So you brought the plane down, did you?
Yeah.
A couple of you?
Yeah. I've never met another plane diverter. Wow.
He's probably... Why don't you have a chat about it now, boys?
Right, that's probably the worst part when you're getting wheeled off and everyone's like, I'm missing my
yeah, I know it's the worst thing. Because the bloke said to me, we're going to have to divert this plane. I said, there's no way I'm diverting this plane of 180 people. No way. It's just a tummy ache. I'll be right. And he says, mate, you're going grey. If you don't divert... In the end, I had a burst stomach ulcer. If I had have gone the whole journey, it could have bled out and, maybe BackChat wouldn't have the ratings it had tonight.
T_Dizzy _. He's got another one in.
Who were the players that wowed you in terms of the way they played?
Oh, yeah, great question. Nick Rewalt, his courage and his running capacity. He would run 3Ks pre-game just to warm up.
Yeah.
He would run more pre-game than you running
I'll be playing on him. He would just go out on the ground. I'll be literally in a tracksuit pant and he would be in full kit. Running. not jogging around
full on running.
Not sprinting, but like a good clip.
He's a big boy as well.
Just run. I mean, I umpired him in the National 18s comp back in 2000. I'm thinking, who's this skinny blonde kid from Queensland? And it was him, and to have that career. Michael Voss's courage, Simon Black's hands, Ben Cousins' running capacity, Chris Judd's explosiveness, Nathan Buckley's, foot skills. I mean, I could go on forever. I'm name dropping, but I got to umpire those great players.
And see them from a metre away. Just,
mischievous defending. I mean, I got to umpire the greats.
That's very good. We got two more. Okay. Gavro _543.
How good would it be to enter a bad spectator's workplace and umpire their day at work?
Oh, I'd love to do that. That is, who is that? I'm going to
Gavro. That's Gavro. He's a good man.
Let me know where you work. I'd love to come in and stand at maybe your boss's office, or he probably's abused me, and just give him the same feedback at office.
And you also would have. I have memories of the umpires walking down the race and people leaning over the fence and really.
You know what? At Subiaco Oval, and we all know this, there used to be a cyclone fence down where we used to walk in and out. And I remember people would literally throw bourbon at me. And I'm thinking, I don't even drink. So that's cost you $10.50. So I'm either worth a fair bit for that. I'm like, mate, good on you. And you give it back to them and there's nothing they could do with like caged animals. That's why they changed it to the PVC thing. So
because of you, because you're giving it back.
It's probably called the Margetts PVC. People say to me, have you got a stand named after you at Optus? I said, no, but there's a urinal there that's named after me. I'm sure of it.
Oh, that's very good. All right, last one. Marshy O'Meara.
The biggest decision an umpire he has had to make.
Biggest decision as an umpire he has had to make.
Yeah.
Read it.
Biggest decision as an umpire you've had to make.
How many is it? Well, the one that I didn't make was the contact below the knees Luke Shuey in the prelim. That's a massive non-decision, which probably cost me maybe a grand final. There's so many. How do you remember them all? Hard to answer.
Did you pay any free kicks that you felt not changed the game, but influenced the result directly?
I literally can't remember any because I've just umpired so many games. What's 377 times?
If you asked me the same question, I'd be like,
it's so hard to say.
There
would be a probably 20 or 30 decision that I paid 150. I was a West Coast away game in Melbourne, I remember, and the ball was in general play, and I blew my whistle and said that's 50. And I thought I made the right decision, but it couldn't be 50, either a free kick or nothing, because the game was actually still happening. So it was just a brain fade. And my coach rang me up and said, talk me through this, and I didn't know what to say. And then they said, you can go back to waffle and think about it. So, when people say we're not accountable, mate, you're only going back to waffle. And I was lucky in probably the last 10 years I didn't have to go back because I was probably in the top part of the group. But there's nothing more humiliating when you go back to waffle or your state league and you get some feedback as to why you're back there, because people know. They just know.
Well, again, welcome to being Will Schofield, mate. I was the most dropped player in West Coast Eagles history. I know all about being embarrassed back in the waffle.
And the feedback you would get.
But the funny thing is, we're talking about umpires. If I ever saw an AFL umpire back there with me,
I would
give it to him, because I knew, you know what, he's the same as fucking me. He's been dropped, and I'm going to give it to him. So he gave a freaky against me. Like, if it was you, Dino, I'd be like, oh, and look who we've got here. Oh, you've been dropped, haven't you, big fella? There's no comeback, because what do you say to me? Oh, you've been dropped too. Yeah, I know, mate. I'm right here.
It's funny. I umpired a game in Cunderton yesterday, actually. I like to get back to the game and just enjoying just different levels of footy and getting feedback from the fans and then giving a bit back because there's no mic, so it's pretty good. Right, and I started to pick up a few players' names. So I'd go, Reece, just come back 2 metres, mounting line. And they went, Lysaght, Dean Margetts knows your name. How good is that? I never thought about that. I wasn't trying to big note myself, but the players just reacted really well, and it was pretty funny.
That's unreal, mate. That's it. Have you had fun on BackChat?
It's good, enjoyed it. Yeah, we could do it more, but I'm happy to cameo up or BackChat up anytime you need me.
Yeah,
thanks for the questions.
We got a teaser. We've got some stuff in the works that I think Dino may offer a fair bit for.
Yeah.
Can't go into it too much, but that's Dean Margetts, unplugged, access all areas. We appreciate your time, mate.
My pleasure.